I wasn't quite happy there because I felt a lot of pressure to deliver with my art. And eventually, commissioning, I didn't really enjoy it. I work in media 60% of my time. 40% of my time is on my art. I would really like to see how I behave if I flip my percentages and I want to be more of an artist rather than that. In Malay, they call it penukang. I'm just a craft person. I am the lowest of the lowest because for the longest time, they were treated as such.
Welcome to Before We Get There, the podcast where we talk about the moments that shape us, the ones we plan for, and the ones we don't. I'm your host, Nicholas Braman, and today I'm joined by Nini Marini. Nini is a multi-artist and art advocate who spent close to 20 years in Malaysian broadcasting before she walked away to make art full-time. We talked about the painting that pulled her private art life into the middle of her corporate one, the why not behind most of the big turns she's taken, and what she found when making art her whole job didn't go the way she pictured. We also talk about the work she's doing now for the craftspeople most people never think to call artists, about heritage and art, and much more. If you've ever left the safe version of your life and found it more complicated than the story you tell about it, this episode is for you. Enjoy the show.
Hi, Nini. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you. And I wanted to start with, you called yourself a multi-artist. And I'd like to hear what that means to you.
Well, it was something that I had to create for myself. When I was working in media, I was known as Nini Marini and media person. And before that, I was also doing a lot of art on the side as well. So there was another side to me. And these two personalities never truly merged. But when I left Media Prima, so I was there for when I left my work in broadcasting, it was about 20 years ago, 20 years of work, I found myself having to explain who I was, especially when I decided that I wanted to go into art. So a lot of the comments came in like, what are you now? You do art? Is that like hobby thing? You're just painting, right? And it became a little bit like, oh, I think I need to sort of like brand myself in a way. So during COVID, I dug deep into who I was as a personality, as a person. And I came up with this whole idea of being a hyphenate, which has always been the case for me. I've always thought myself as a hybrid, but to name it, so I just went multi and then hyphen artist. So I'm multifaceted. So I'm not multidisciplinary artist, how people understand it, but multidimensional in that sense. So I was also able to take in my content persona as well, because being an artist is like, yeah, you just paint. But if I called myself something with a multi-hyphenate, it gave me room to grow. So when people said, so I always go, I'm a multidimensional, multifaceted person, but I'm anchored by my art. So when people say, what's a multi-artist? It just gives me a room to explain who I am, pretty much like how I am doing right now. So it was a good business card tactic.
And through that process, were you figuring out for yourself or just figuring out how to explain it to other people?
Yeah, I was pretty much figuring out how to explain to people because I realized especially out here in Asia, everyone needs to brand you or label you a certain way. So it was very easy when I was in broadcasting. It was like, yeah, content developer, this is what I do. But coming out and trying to explain to them, hey, you can still talk to me, right? I can still do stuff in content. I just didn't want to continue in broadcasting because I realized that I could do more. So it was just also training my audience or people around me to see who I am. And I think it worked out.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so art has basically always been a part of your life, right? Since a very young age.
Yeah, ever since I was born. And in fact, I was kind of rehearsing the line. I love art. I love all the letters, A-R-T. And I used to write this on my pencil case growing up. And so art has always been something that I was good at. I wouldn't say exceptional, but in the whole big scheme of Nini things, I could make a lot of things with with my hands. I was good with my imagination. In school, it was always about, oh yeah, let's think about different things to do. So art to me was always a safety net. And I found myself really being anchored by it and finding true confidence. So even when everything was governed with art. I went to art school. Art histories were art subjects were my favorite subjects. And then university was art-centric. When I came back to Malaysia, I realized that, I really need to fit within their ideas of what I need to be. And so, I had to be television. So when I came back from UK, from visual communications, that's what I graduated in. At the time, there was no work for me. I should be a creative director. I was trained to be a creative director. I didn't know that. There was no name for me. Came back and it was only like, okay, it's either advertising, film, TV, and then what else you want to do. I quickly realized I didn't want to do anything in advertising and film. So television was something I loved because I loved watching TV. So I thought, let's do something I like. And so that's how it started. And I started in sports television. Now, from art to sports for somebody who does not do any sport, like I play golf, that's it. And sports production was like my basic. And I started there and I started building a position for myself in television. Slowly, my creative thinking, my training came out. Eventually, people figured, oh my gosh, you can do more than just sports production. And then that's how I started transitioning within the corporate structure until finally my role was content innovator. And that was something that was created. And I thrived in it because all I had to do was create concepts or, think about different projects like it's innovation. So I could do grammar, which is game and drama. I could do all kinds of things. So I realized then I fell back to that. At the same time, though, I like to illustrate and paint and all that. So I figured, how am I going to do this with a full-time job? And then slowly I had friends going, hey, I work for this magazine. Would you like to do an illustration for me? And that's how it started. So I started practicing my art at the same time as doing my career. Mm. So I called it arts on the side for me. And I accepted jobs or invitations that needed me to finish things within a time frame. My objective was that I wanted to build an art portfolio because I said, I'm not going to do TV, not all my life, but I need to make sure that my portfolio is alive. So I'm going to try and do as many creative projects as I can while I can. So then started my duality, art and TV.
That's awesome. So I want to go back a little bit because you went to school for art and then you came back, but your mother, was she a working artist, like a full-time artist? So why did you feel you had to find a corporate type of job and not go straight into doing art?
Oh, well, actually, funnily enough, my mother, she's an educator. And so she was not a practicing artist, but she was an educator. She did do fiber arts, which is the most niche thing you could possibly do, tapestries and that. So she was always governed by safety. And she taught me about making bread and butter money. And so what's my bread and butter? It's like do something that's so easy for you, it comes very easily to you, so that it can eventually, the money that you gain, you can put into your art. So that was her idea of if you want to do art. And then I had a father who was an entrepreneur. And so he developed this really a sense of awareness for me that, and he was the one that said, you need to get a job and pay me back because I studied overseas. And he's like, at the time, and I'm dating myself a little bit, but it was recession. And he was like, you know what, Nini, you need to start earning your keep. And so go and see so-and-so in a broadcasting station. And there you go. Mind you, when I was in university, it was called, my course that I took was visual communications. So at the time, it was not even a traditional art program. So in the UK in 1997, they were going through a transition period where they wanted people to think outside the box. And visual communications was one of the earlier courses there. And I took it because my mother was at the time in education and she knew people. So that course taught me how to do multidimensional things because I could combine illustration and animation and multimedia work and all that stuff. So I lose my way here a little bit.
No,
what am I going to talk about?
No, that's perfect. So that's why you went into that program.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's why I when I decided to work, it was for practical reasons. And I could find new ways to do things because I learned how to do multiple things in university. And so it kind of like allowed me to diversify and collaborate with people. And I think that's kind of a little good edge for me. Yeah.
And so then when you started being able to incorporate more of your creative side into your TV and sports work, and you had this position created for you, was it like a mentor that recognized it? Was it you advocating for yourself and pushing to be able to utilize more of your skills? How did that come about?
I always think about it. The first boss, because my life was, I went to the broadcaster, 2 years in sports. Then I left. I joined an independent production company and I worked for another channel. And then the other TV channel called me back and said, hey, we're moving, we're changing. We need like a concepts person. And we feel that you can fill this role. And I think at the time, they were thinking about this and they were being experimental. I happened to be one of those people that stood out for them at the time and said, let's give it a go. And so that's how it started. So I don't think it's one mentor who told me or anything. At the time, I was in a mindset of going with it. And in whatever case, a lot of people would have really not liked the idea of going to sports production because that's not what I was trained to do. But I was in the position of, well, this is interesting. I've never done this before. Ooh, Formula One, what do I do? And like, ooh, I have to do multi-camera production. What is that? It was just me figuring things out. Right. And I was really excited about problem solving. I didn't know then that I was applying design thinking, but I was really winging it and going with it and really feeling blessed that at every opportunity I was learning something. And I always wanted to go, what can I learn out of this and what can I bring forward, and how can I apply what I already know in this? So I had this really strong sense of self and awareness ever since school. So even in university, when I was in university, people were doing very interesting like illustration and all that. My subject matter was studying animation, comic books, and studying Powerpuff Girls and why did the style of Powerpuff Girls differ from Dexter's Lab. That was my thesis, by the way, in university. And the other one was, why is the movie trailer manipulative as a subject matter? And this is an art school. I should be in media school. And how did I get away with that? What I mean? So I've always been a person that I could make things work within the confines that I've been given. I didn't know that. It was just a sense of rebellion.
That's very interesting because early on in my career, I don't recall exactly, it was an article or somewhere, but I learned this concept. Somebody called it job crafting. And utilizing your role, your responsibilities, the projects that you need to execute, but tailoring it to maybe your strengths or maybe your weaknesses, something you want to get better at, experience that you didn't have yet that you want to gain from, at this time. And I've utilized that throughout my career. Yeah, and I think it's had a lot of good benefits.
Job crafting.
Yeah, job crafting. I love that. So I think that fits very well.
Yeah.
And then as you started to do your projects on the side, how did you balance between the day job? Did you ever feel like you wish you had more time to do art, or feel pressure from your job to not spend time on your personal projects, or what was that like?
Oh, that's the thing. I always say, do what you love, right? And I know it's corny, but I think I had this hashtag that I started developing for myself. It started with why not hashtag. That was, if somebody invited me to do something, Nini, would you like to be on a billboard? I said, no pay. Or Nini, would you like to paint on a sneaker? No pay, but it's like you get free sneakers. I will go, well, I've got nothing else to do, so why not? And it's not a yes or no thing. I know there's a whole yes, no concept. It's like, why not? Why not? It's just like curious. So that led me to believing that, hey, I'm doing something here. And there were so many jobs.
How much of this was planned? And how much of it did you kind of realize as you were going, or even in hindsight, about this dual track?
The dual track was never planned. But I was really going on, well, I have energy, let's do it. I wasn't thinking. And I was going based on, well, this is interesting. I want to do this. And I kept on going. I didn't really connect the dots until much, much later. Yeah. Until, when that moment came for me, like I said, it was dual two-track. So people knew me as media. Some of them knew me as a socialite because I was starting to also campaign for myself. That's how it started, actually. My creative collaboration started from luxury brands. And the luxury brands put me a little bit on the map. So I had that identity, and it didn't really mix. Not until one day when I was doing my solo exhibition, I freestyled Phoenix rising from an ash. I didn't know I was going to paint a phoenix, and I did it. And at the time, it was Twitter. I had posted something on Twitter, and somebody from the company passed it around, and it reached the big boss, group managing director. And I got a message from him, and he said, "Nini, I hear that you paint." And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I said, no, I did everything right. I did it on Saturday, nothing. Yeah. Well, I hear that you've painted an interesting, and he sent me a picture of it, the phoenix. And it's like, guess what? Our brainstorming session for our next session for the group, it's called Phoenix Rising from the Ashes. And we would very much like to feature that painting at the brainstorming session. Wow. And that is when the intersection happened. And it was because of his leadership and that he was like, he made me stand up. It was a big presentation. I sent my big painting, it was a big painting, to the office. And the entire company, and I'm talking about the different divisions, he made me stand up, and he said, "This is the person who painted it," and did this big unveiling. And then since then, my identity at work started to slowly change. And again, it's also due to my bosses at the time that gave me this space to do a lot of creative projects within the company too. I had painting the office day, so I did murals, and one day it was like, I spent 1 week in the office in my painting gear, painting the walls. It was a mural project. And I painted the mural for my office and invited other people from different divisions who also had painting backgrounds to also contribute to that project. And I thought, this is crazy that I am working at a 9-to-5 job and I am currently painting. And it was crazy. So it came to a point where I thought, I need to explore this side. There's so many things that are happening, and really the creative project started increasing for me. Then just before COVID, I decided I need to make this leap. It's the hardest thing ever. And, work was getting interesting. I was managing like many portfolios. I had a big team. I was doing different things, marketing, all kinds of stuff. And I thought I was feeling drained. And this was 2018. And as I was going on, like, I've done everything in television. I don't feel energetic anymore. I don't feel that it's curious anymore. I feel like I'm doing day to day. I think it's time to change. And I had a chat again with that big boss that encouraged me. And then again, his other boss, and they all said, Nini, what is this? Is this a lifestyle change? Is this a life change for you? I said, yeah, I want to see what happens when I flip my percentages, because he's an accountant. So I spoke to him in accountant language. So I said, I work in media 60% of my time. 40% of my time is on my art. I would really like to see how I behave if I flip my percentages, and I want to be more of an artist rather than that. And he was like, okay, give it a go. And then COVID happened. I'll pause now for you to ask me a question.
No, that's great. It's really interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Because so for me, my day job, I'm in marketing in tech. And I started this podcast a little bit over a year and a half ago. And there was a variety of reasons and ideas that came together that made me want to start it. But I very deliberately did not do a business podcast or a marketing podcast, or even I have some founders and entrepreneurs on, but that's not the focus. And the focus is not getting marketing tips or how do you grow your business, to the first 100K revenue or that sort of thing, because I wanted to separate what I was doing from my personal side. I do marketing for 40 plus hours a week. I enjoy what I do. I feel like I'm good at it, but I didn't want my personal project to be more of the same thing. And so I talked to a lot of creatives. I talked to athletes. I talked to people who are creating content, creating art, singing, all this sort of thing. So it feeds a different side of my interests and my passions and more of the creative side. So that resonates really strongly with me. And I'm curious, so when you switched the ratios, so were you able to still keep part of your corporate job, or did you?
Oh, yeah. So that's a quick. Thank you for asking me that. I did try. So before pandemic, everybody is like, no such thing as work from home, right? So I actually did a presentation and it was entitled Doing Things a Little Differently. And so I did a deck and I sent it to them and I proposed that I do a 3-day week. And I wouldn't work in my current position. I would float. So my job is then to create concepts cross-border, meaning to say, because it's a conglomerate, so there has TV, radio, digital, and I float between them anyways. And I said I would love to do more of those type of projects where I bring everyone together, and I can sit anywhere. They entertained me. They gave a month, and I was parked in HR. And after a while, I think I had the feeling that they weren't really comfortable with it. And they revisited the idea. And I managed to get a package out of them. They offered me a package and we kind of divorced after that. Because I think because I was the only one doing it, they were worried that other people would not see it the way they did. And to their credit, they tried, but they were just not culturally ready. And then the pandemic happened. And then, of course, it's work from home 24/7. By then, it was too late. I'd already left.
And so was that scary?
Oh, yeah. It was scary. And I'm so thankful that I had a bit of some savings. And of course, the package helped a lot. But, the pandemic helped. It gave a pause and everybody was on pause. And I had ironically, the best time during the COVID because I could really assess what I wanted to do and how I wanted to craft my creative life post whenever it was going to get out. So I did a lot of experiments. I took myself into marketing courses, self-branding. That's how I decided to be multi-artist myself, But even before that, just before pandemic, and I was in the transitioning of transitioning out, a process of transitioning out, I took myself to 2 places. I was invited to New York as a surface pattern designer to do an exhibition there. So there was a bit of an investment to go to New York because I thought after I finished media, I would be a surface pattern designer. So I wanted to see what that was like, and I wanted to know what licensing was all about. So I did. I took myself to New York. It was a hefty investment, but it was a really enlightening one. And I thought, okay, in order for me to get there, it's a lot of steps, but I've already done some homework there.
So that's a little bit of, I think, touches on what I was going to ask you next, but I think maybe a little bit differently, because I was going to ask about when you started to have that pressure of needing to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Does that have any effect on your creativity and making the art?
Yeah. I mean, the first couple of years after COVID and I was doing Nini the Artist things, it was great because I had companies asking me to train using art, and which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher. I thought creative education, I want to go there. But the last 2 years, which is 23 and 24, it got a little bit tougher because people became less brave and went back to the hamster wheel. So the invitations to do new things started to go less and less. And it was getting a little bit pressureful. So I started looking out for work that I could do part-time, but solid. So I thought, okay, maybe I can do 3 days a week and consult for somebody. Reaching out to people. The same time, though, because I had such a good connection with my media people, every year or so, someone, thank God, will ask to do a feature on me or to write an article on me. And that particular year, I think 2023, The Edge asked to do an interview, and it's a business feature, and they put me in the front page, and I was talking about creative education. It led to 2 invitations later on to consider to work for philanthropy, and that's how it started. My journey in philanthropy.
So what's the connection between the art and philanthropy?
It was art philanthropy. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is art philanthropy. So it's the subject matter has never changed for me. It's just what I'm doing now is I'm giving back in a different way, and I'm building. So going back to what you said, how was it hard? It was, and I realized it's because our systems are not catered for creative people. Even anywhere, like right now in Asia, especially, you can't go out and call yourself a super podcaster right now. Tax incentives and all that, it's not designed for you, creative life. So I thought, if I'm in this space, I really don't want to work in government, but maybe this is my way of like trying to see whether I can figure it out for other people who are like me, who want to do something and don't have the means to. And there was a reason why I went into corporate. There was a reason why I learned all these tricks and how to navigate around like audit and construct. But maybe this is where I should be for now, you know? And so I said yes again to this invitation. Why not? And back to corporate, I went, you know? But the subject matter now is my subject matter. It's art, which is like, hey, this is interesting.
So it's sounds like a path of creating your own art while supporting yourself, to teaching other people how to be more creative and how to create more art, to then now supporting artists and allowing them to do more, and with whether that's financially or what have you, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it's a good place to be, and thank you for seeing it so clearly for me. I remember you asked me, was there a plan for this? I did do a master plan during my create what I want to do for myself timings. I did multiple mind maps about what I should be as an individual, and I remember I had put a 5-year plan, or maybe. And that eventually ended up in, I want to be in education or art, and I want to be global in the future. And I feel like I'm in that space now. Maybe at the time I wanted to change the curriculum is one of my goals. I think quite close to that one. But to be in global art space, I wanted to have an outreach and to work with global people globally was actually a dream of mine. And I think I'm quite close to that too. It's just that the journey is very different, but the main goals are still the same.
And then how does it feel like? What is the fulfillment or the satisfaction you get? What's the difference between when it's art that you're creating yourself or when you're teaching and you're seeing other people creating art?
When I'm doing art for myself, it's pure selfishness. I spend a lot of time with myself. I think, I float, I dream, I meditate, and it's purely a safe space, which is why actually when I was a full-time artist, I really wasn't, if I were to be really honest with you, I wasn't quite happy there, because I felt a lot of pressure to deliver with my art. And eventually, commissioning, I didn't really enjoy it. I always put parameters. If you're going to commission me, you just give me colors and let me do whatever I want to do. But still, I felt that pressure. So I didn't like that I put so much of that into something that I found so much joy in. And now I get to just do art freely, with no one telling me I need to do it for a studio or a gallery or things like that. So I think that was like a big thing. I realized when I started working in structure again that I really do appreciate the structure, and I felt like I felt balanced.
Did that pressure come from people's expectations, or was it from your internal
income? Right? Okay. Like, you're trying to make money with your art, but then it's like you're making your paintings and you're like pressured to actually make paintings that is affordable, for instance, for people. And you're not like doing it like, I'm meditating today and I'm going to just go with the flow and paint whatever I like. It's very intentional. I found myself having to go, maybe I need to do a series now, or maybe I need to be in the gallery now. And I didn't like that. I didn't enjoy fitting into, ironically, the artist's format, which is like, anti that.
So it's like having to think about the commercial side while you're creating.
Which I had no problem, because a lot of people call me my art commercial, which is fine. It's exhausting to run your business like an entrepreneur and be an artist at the same time. What I wanted really was to be a creative director in my company and then look for a business development kind of person to help me run the business. I knew things like that happened in America quite easily, or even outside of Asia. But here, that concept is not true yet. So you will find a lot of business people who will invest in you, but they'll be like, what's my ROI? This feels very slow. I don't think I want to put my time into your business or your brand. But when I talk to people overseas, they were like, you know what, Nini, there's a lot of angel investors that actually invest in you, the brand. This is why I started building my brand as a thinker, a designer, whatever, hoping that one day the stars will align and I'll find the right person to help me develop the business. But in the meantime, the only person that knew how to do that was me. So I was doing strategy. This is the same story of any creative, right? Strategy, marketing, but then like work was like, art is 5%.
It's all the stuff around it that you have to do.
Yeah, so that was the one that gave me a lot of pressure. It's because you're tired on the weekends, but yet you have to do all of these things. So already even talking like this, my energy level is low. But that was the reality of the creative life. And I hope that one day we don't have to work so hard like that. I hope that one day that we can create and there is already an ecosystem for us to plug into that we can thrive together, and not having to be forced into entrepreneurship as an artist.
And so is the work you're doing now going in that direction?
I hope. It's hard because it's a big thing. When I look at I'm blessed with big pictureism, so I can see what happens in the creative ecosystem from the above the line and below the line, and there's a lot of things that need to be worked out, and eventually then working into policy as well to look at creative artist policies and things like that. You have it for specific things like writers maybe, and actors in film, but the in-between people, the people who are connectors or the people who are creative directors, but they don't really need to label themselves. I'm more for the hybrids, like where do they sit? Yeah, so I want to see them sit somewhere.
So you've touched a couple of times on promoting art from Malaysia and the ecosystem and this sort of thing. I'm curious what you think about, I think often when we think of art that's tied to a country or a culture, it's related back to heritage or traditional art. But certainly there are new, like, art that's not tied to tradition and tied to history or the traditional things. So how do you get
like countries equal heritage?
Yes. Yeah,
and I'm in heritage space now, right? So I'm an art philanthropist. So I am in a position where I want to preserve national identity. and it is done through heritage art. When you go to a country, culture and heritage is the identity. Like if you take all of our culture out, there's nothing left. It's just a city. So it is and adds color to every country. So art doesn't have to be traditional, but I do believe the stories and the narrative that it carries are the ones that should take it across. So whether you present it in a contemporary form or traditional form, the most important is bringing the story forward. So storytelling is something that we need to work on as a country to share with you the different cultures that we have and maybe make connections as well. So when I talk about connections now globally, we can connect textiles all the way to Persian, to Ottoman, silk route, spice route, and all these things. I can connect to Singapore as well through all of the history that we've had together, our shared histories, and also histories that were written for us. So it's a great conversation starter, and it's a great way for us to exchange knowledge about each other. So I think art in this respect can be diverse, and actually it can take many forms too, even podcasting, because you can talk about art this way too, and heritage. In my new role here in philanthropy, this whole newfound look in heritage, because I was always looking at it from a textiles perspective, because I have a textiles background, but there's so much to be learned in all kinds of different crafts. So, and it goes back to my thing about loving art, right? I do also like traditional crafts and all kinds of form, because it is art, which is like art. So ironically, the 3 letters is so huge.
A couple of years ago, I worked with someone in Singapore for TEDx who was a letterpress collector. And our region is quite unique because we have so many languages, and the history is very interesting and diverse. But one of the things that I found out and stood out to me was that the people who were doing the letterpress themselves didn't appreciate the aesthetics, or that it was something that should be saved, or heritage that should be recorded. For them, it was just a job, was what they did. And so when you're talking about textiles, I was thinking, do the people who are making the fabric, do they think of themselves as artists, or is it just what they do?
Again, beautiful question. And I think that is the quest right now, to make them see that they are of worth. Because a lot of them think that they are, in Malay, they call it penukang. I'm just a craft person. I am the lowest of the lowest, because for the longest time, they were treated as such, you know? But if you look at some other countries out there, the craftsman is of the highest order. You go to Louis Vuitton, there's the master craftsman. So my goal is to at least, we have so many master craftsmen out there, and it is my goal to make them be seen, and so to know that their work is of worth, and that they are really contributing to the country in a meaningful way. Yeah,
I think that's super important, and it's a perspective for the public or consumers as well, because I think if you say that, everybody will think of Japan, right?
Yeah.
Immediately, like people who have perfected this one craft that they have done, spent their whole lives doing. But we don't think of that for a lot of other crafts or countries or places or different things.
Yeah.
And with fast fashion and with all of this sort of thing that is going on now, for people to appreciate craftspeople that are spending time and labor and effort on creating quality things.
Yeah.
Because even during our conversation and during my research with you, I'm thinking about art and textiles, or art and craft, not as this base layer of creating the thing itself, but as, you know, putting flowers on the thing or whatever. It's a big mind shift, I think, to think about, no, actually just creating the fabric itself is art.
Yeah. I feel like I've succeeded something if you have that realization at the end of this podcast, right? To know and to see it in that so deeply, right? And to appreciate it. Sometimes, like you said, we move so fast. But the world needs to really slow down and really pay attention to the little things and what you wear, who made it, because there is such a thing. And in this world, what we wear sometimes is actually made by somebody, even though it's through the machinery. Some hand has touched it at some point. So there's a big reflection that needs to be on things that you wear on an everyday basis. I feel like now is a good time to have a pause because I'm listening to the world through social media and all that. And definitely people are thinking about slowing down, using craft for mindfulness, using craft for rehabilitation. We support that type of projects too. So I think more people see it, then it has a chance to kind of like go on in a different view.
Yeah, I hope so. That would be, I think, to humanity's benefit and to the planet's benefit and
Yes.
everything.
Yes, I hope so too. And in the future, I feel like we are not here just to talk about history. I feel that we can learn a lot about traditional methods. In machinery as well, people are looking at what their terminology. It's called. It's not. I wouldn't say analog machine, but it's a term. It's a technical term. Whether it's not automated, but you're using half automated and half man-made machines to make things now. And I think we're shifting to that. How do we use traditional techniques in new applications? So I'm thinking, seaweed yarn is being developed right now for alternative materials. Who are making these innovations? Artists, because they love to experiment. So there's that going on. And one day, I hope the robot will be able to hand dye something to alleviate some of the hard stuff so the artisan can concentrate in just weaving, for instance. Or you could use the technique of a weaver to weave fiber optics for better storage systems in the future. So I feel like we need to use our innovative minds and our future minds and bring the traditional techniques for our benefits. People have forgotten that we can make actual houses without nails, and those are Malay houses. Boats, our Asian boats, are one of the ones where everyone wants to learn how to make them because it's crafted without any bolts in them, or they use special ridges, and it's standing till today. So we can learn from the past, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I love talking about the past, but my last question I like to ask my guests is looking at the future.
I do.
So if we sit down again in 5 years and talk about what's happened from now until then, what would you like to be able to tell me has happened in that time that would make it feel like a success?
I would love to sit down here with you in 5 years and say that I have managed to get a seat at the table, to talk about the artists, and that the artists are able to thrive on their own, and that their work and feel proud to be an artist, and that they have a space in this world. And I feel like that would make me very happy. And I'm not going to say in 5 years I'm going to solve the problem, but maybe I'll say I'm halfway there.
Halfway would be great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining me. If people want to see your art or see the work that you're doing now, where can they find you?
Well, they can start stalking me at Nini Marini _ and at Instagram.
Okay.
And then the journey for them starts there. Or they can go to my website, which is ninimarini.art.
Awesome. Well, we'll put the links in the show notes.
Yes.
Thanks so much for joining me. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Bye, everybody.
See ya. At it, yours.
Great. Thank you for listening to Before We Get There with your host, Nicholas Braman. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Before We Get There Podcast. New episodes are released every other Thursday morning. See you next time.